All right, got to pull it up on our friends over at Facebook at the AFC West or at the Mile High Huddle page. Spinning wheel there.
We got friends everywhere. Friends all over the place.
Everywhere and all over. Broncos country, not a place, but a state of mind. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy May the 4th for all you Star Wars nerds out there. I know somewhere Chad and Eric are dressed up in robes playing with their fake Star Wars lightsabers.
That's the mug I should have grabbed today. I've got a Star Wars mug. I call it my recruiting mug because it's Darth Vader and it says join us or die. So whenever I go into like interviews or anything like that, I take that with me. I'm recruiting a kid for my baseball team. I'm like, here you go.
You sound like Nick Saban out there. Well, good morning, guys. This is, of course, Broncos for breakfast. Our draft is over, but we're still running strong. We're going to be going. We did a Monday show yesterday, but we're going to be going Tuesdays and Thursdays here going forward. Guys, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Also, follow Scott and myself over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Nick Kendell MHH, and you can follow Scott over on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. Also, guys, very helpful. Make sure you check out Scott's YouTube page, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. He has ample information there, a lot of good videos. And if you have any specifics there that you're looking for about the Broncos draft class or like any players specifically, you can go check that out. I'm also going to drop that in the chat for all you listeners in here, so that way you can find that and just click on that link and you get going.
And find the players that you want to talk about, because I respond to comments, and the comments are in there, so you can kind of read between the lines a little bit on some of these guys. Like when you start talking about Jamie Newman, I'm like, yeah, I think he might be a reach, or Felipe Franks is in there, or and I'm more active in my comments on YouTube than I am anywhere. So I get the notifications, and it's not a big enough channel yet where I can't keep up with it. I'm used to keeping up with message boards in the old days that have 1,000 people on it. So, come there and ask a question, and I'll hit. And a lot of you have, and I appreciate it. I think I've had 3 new subscribers from this group yesterday. So I think Tommy was one. Tommy Simmers.
Hey,
thank
Tommy,
you.
awesome.
Thank you for your names. I apologize, but I certainly appreciate it. Had about 100,000 views over the weekend on NFL draft stuff. So it was a good weekend.
Heck yeah. And we're still, the draft is still percolating, right? We still got that happened, but we're still kind of processing it, especially when you cover the draft. I was going over these Chargers, Raiders, Chiefs draft classes, and I'm like, oh yeah, he went there, just because it's such an avalanche of information. And we streamed 18 hours Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'm still trying to catch up on that.
You couldn't keep up with 32 teams and their 20 undrafted free agents. Speaking of which, it's something I wanted to talk about early if you were ready to get into it, or if you had some more business to take care of.
Just real quick, I wanted to get over the Broncos information here. Subscribe, like, and share, please. And also, guys, if you are joining us on Facebook, please click those thumbs up. But yeah, let's get to it.
All right, real quick. There's a graphic that was making its way around, and I'm going to share my screen real quick, and then Nick can pull it up, put it in here. There's a graphic that's going its way around, and I like to say this is a type of graphic that gets a lot of oohs and ahs, and it also it's for people who are really, really bad at math. If you're saying that there's more undrafted free agents in the Hall of Fame then there are number 1 picks in the Hall of Fame. When I look at that graphic, I say, holy Nikes, Tommy Boy reference. There's 14 of those guys made the Hall of Fame. That's an incredible hit rate as far as I'm concerned. You're talking about 1 in 4 make the Hall of Fame. We're undrafted free agents. There's, I'm not sure how many the Broncos signed, but the Falcons signed 20. They signed 20 undrafted free agents this year. So if you're talking 20 players, 30 teams, I'm even going to round down, is 600 for 30 years. I'm not even going to go back that far. That's 18,000 players. So you're talking about a 1 in 1,000 hit rate against 1 in 4. Which one do you want?
Yeah,
I'm going to take the number 1 pick. Remember this phrase because I say it a lot. With a small enough sample size, I can prove anything you want. I can prove anything you want because there's always an outlier out there. Oh, I shouldn't take a quarterback. Look at Tom Brady. I should take quarterbacks in the 7th round. Look at Kurt Warner. I should be looking for guys stocking shelves in the pantry for my quarterback. So the probability tells you that the higher drafted guys are going to do well. Is everybody going to hit? Hell no. No. But I'll take 1 in 4 over 1 in 1,000 every day, despite the comments on, that generally come with a post like this. 1 in 1,000, 1 in 4. I'm going to take my chances with John Elway. And frankly, Warren Moon was a stud that he had to go do it. And if he was coming out today, he would have been a top 3 pick.
Yeah, 100%.
Without a doubt.
I mean, the game's changed too. Like if you're just talking 10 years ago, Kyler Murray's not going number 1 overall, right? The evaluation changes, where you're at changes, the perspective changes. So that's really good. And when it comes down to math, you see raw data like this, it's like, well, what's the denominator? Sorry, boys. I know I didn't ladies in here. It's a little early for a math lesson, but it's stuff like that. It's like, well, the raw data only takes you so far. You got to know the numerator, denominator. Let's talk some rates. Let's talk proportions, et cetera, et cetera. So really good. This man, getting me fired up.
And Nick, being in recruiting where the probability is across 1 million players, and it says like, well, as many 5-star guys got drafted in the first round as 2-star guys or lower in the first round. There's 35-star guys a year. There's 900,000 2-star guys. So the fact that the probability was like 1 in 7 5-stars, the probability was like 1 in 25,000 2-stars. I'm like, I'm going to, and the way I always say it is, you don't look at any one player, because one player can be the anomaly, but look at the draft as a whole. How do you feel like you did from top to bottom on these type of drafts? So anyway, that's my quick pet peeve on this type of thing with, fudging math. What is it? Lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's one of those. It's just like, come on, that's interesting. But the fact that there's only 17 undrafted free agents in the Hall of Fame should tell you how rare it is. You got a better chance of getting struck by lightning.
And I do want to be fair to this process a little bit. There is probably a little bit of selection bias in that, because number 1 overall pick is going to get a chance time and time again to be proven right. Undrafted free agents, a lot of guys, you're talking about it, like Kurt Warner, and it takes the circumstances to get that ability or that chance to show it, but still, right? Like that's very minor. Just want to add that little asterisk in there because we want to be as transparent and real with you guys as possible. So let's get to everybody saying hello in here, because we have a bunch of familiar faces. We got JD coming in here. Good morning, Broncos country. Good morning to you, JD. Charlie Beagle's in the house. Rebels Legacy, Corey Johnson, Michael DePasquello. Hopefully I nailed it. May the 4th be with you from BX Bronco Jedi. Oh, man, it's your day, Jedi. Congratulations. Good morning to Nick and Scott and Broncos country. We got Malcolm Brown coming in saying good morning from Ogden, Texas, home of the Wildcats and my wild grandchildren. Congrats, Malcolm. Hope you're having a good time down there. Malcolm's typically from Alaska, but he's down there visiting his grandkids right now. Have my Star Wars mug ready for my second cup of coffee. Oh, man, I'm on my first. It's a little early here in the Western time zone, but that's what we're here for. Quentin Carson, good morning. Gavin Hull coming in here. Yo to you. Brent Weber coming in. Good morning, Broncos country. I'm stoked on the Broncos draft class. Me too. Jamal Killings, one of my favorite. I love Jamal. He's always bringing the heat. Good morning. And Brent saying, is it football season yet? No. Scott said it yesterday. This is why baseball season exists. We're tying that little time period between football or just a little off season, right? And it's also going to be
pastime. The national pastime. Not the world's most exciting sport, but it's on every day, 3 hours. Yes. I know it's on. I can dual screen while I got a game on. And Jamal Killings, I hope you play defense in football. You've got to be like a headhunting safety. That'd be the best football name of the bunch.
Give us your specs, man. We got to know how tall you are. What's your 40? That arm length. It all matters. We got Django coming in from the Philippines as well. Peter Middleton coming in from Turkey. Yeah, perfect time breakfast for you guys. But let us know what time it is over in Turkey, Peter. Nate's in the house as well. We got Caden checking in from school, which is great. Caden Beams. Who else is in school? Well, Caden, be careful out there. Don't get your phone taken away. J.R. Whitehead is in here. Oh, we got Flo in the house from Germany. This is awesome. Good morning from George Fox. Hey, guys, great show from Ruben. Bob Skinner's in the house. Karaoke Chris. Man, coming in here. But we also go, guys, keeping the lights on in here. Mr. Boggins coming in with the $5 super and leading us to a perfect transition to our general topic today, kind of just going over the AFC West. Mike Mayock drafts like he's trying to prove he knows players outside the first round. Value be damned. Well, I'm going to come in this one real quick. Mr. Boggins, how much of these picks are actually Mike Mayock? Because it does not sound like Mike Mayock is there, and obviously he gets some influence and advice there. But make no mistakes about that Raiders organization. This is John Gruden's team, and John Gruden is the main guy making these picks. So yes, Mayock is the general manager there, but general manager sometimes does not have the power that the head coach does, especially when you have a head coach with the contract and the demands that John Gruden had to join the Las Vegas Raiders. But I love it. We'll see if we're proven wrong, right? Like sometimes teams can be way out there and then they're proven right in their drafts. But to be that against the consensus consistently year after year, let's just say I absolutely love when the Raiders go rogue because I hate them. I really hate them.
Well, and what's interesting on that is Gruden's got it perfect. If he's the one pulling the strings, he's got his guy out front doing all the talking. So he's a perfect administrator. You know, you send the little people out there to face the public and face the press. So, you know, and I don't know if that's the case. I think Mayock's pretty heavily involved in these. And, you know, I don't know that Alex Leatherwood was that big a reach. We talked about him on our final show, guys, that could get into the first round. And I said, I expect him to get into the first round, even though he's rated in the 40s on a lot of boards. If you go back 6 months, he's, you know, top 20. So if this is where you had him, I don't think that's that big a reach. Again, for me, if I'm doing grades, I would have said trade back a few spots. You know, you probably could have picked up another third rounder and gone from, where was he, 17 to 20, 21, pick up a third rounder. If there's a couple guys on your board, trade down again, pick up another fourth rounder and build up that team. The Broncos or the Raiders certainly aren't one team away. So I don't question the pick so much. I like Alex Leatherwood. He had an amazing pro day. I thought he was a little bit lazy when he was doing not lazy, just he didn't dominate the way you expect at Senior Bowl compared to the pro day numbers that he put up. It was so he didn't look as athletic as he actually is. So maybe bored. I don't know. He still went, you know, top 20, so it worked out for him. But Alex Leatherwood, to me, that's not that big a reach. If we move on to Trevin Merrig, safety, he was projected as high as 15. Until, you know, he had a little bit of a back problem for his pro day, but he still ran a 4.5. He didn't do all the jumps and everything, but he's still a 4.5 guy, and that's a first round guy. Talent, if you don't need him right away, you know, and I'll use the first safety off the board, I believe was Richie Grant to the Falcons. I don't think anybody else. So
no, Javon Holland.
Okay, did Holland go? I don't think Holland went ahead of him, did he?
I thought Holland went right after the Broncos traded up to Javonte Williams. So I thought it was 36 Holland, 40 Richie Grant.
I think you're right. For some reason, I thought I read something about them passing, but they may have passed by trading down. You know, with those guys still on the board, they pass. But, you know, you're getting the number one guy. You know, the Falcons had to have a guy that could play right away, and that's too big a risk for Merrig, so they trade down because of his back and get Richie Grant. But you're pretty happy with that pick. If you're the Raiders and Merrig right there, you might have gotten the best safety in the draft at 43. That's not all bad.
No,
so
it's
you know,
not.
I'm not as down on this draft as some of the others might be. Like I said, I think capital wise, you could have done a little better with that 17 pick, gotten Leatherwood, and added a couple more threes on that list you're looking at right there.
Yeah, and it does sound like Tom Cable was extremely high on Leatherwood. They went with him, and Leatherwood is one of the few guys in this class. It was a good offensive line class, but not many of the tackles actually had the requisite length teams are looking for with that 34-inch arm length. And Alex Leatherwood does have it. He also has played at a decently high level, 4 different spots on that Alabama offensive line. And this Raiders offensive line, they had been the identity of this team. Well, they totally gutted it this year. So getting a guy who can play 4 different spots, I mean, Colton Miller is the only one on there that I really trust right now. So getting Alex Leatherwood there is not bad. I think 17 is probably about 5 to 10 picks too early, but it does sound like the Ravens would have taken him if he fell within range. So,
and they know what they're doing. And the Ravens know what they're doing with draft picks.
Yes, absolutely. So I like Leatherwood. I thought he disappointed me at the Senior Bowl, right? Like he had a lot of hype, and I thought he looked a little bit, he tends to lunge. I feel like he doesn't play with as much balance as you would hope, especially with a guy with the length he has. Like, dude, you don't got to lunge. You can reach. It's fine. So that's an issue for me. But it's a solid pick. It's like eating vegetables. It's not fun, but offensive line works. But really, it's this round 3 on where I really have some questions. I will say, I really do like the Nate Hobbs pick. I think he is a solid cornerback prospect. I think he can do some things, good athletic profile. But Malcolm Kuntz, that felt extremely early. And I like Divine Diablo, but what are they doing with Jonathan Abrams? Is he already a bust? I mean, to use a 3rd round pick, what happened to, did they take Caleb Von Wallace or Tyler Muse last year? I think they took Muse. So another safety. They're just throwing safeties out there, and all these ones that fit like different schemes. So I'm not really sure what they're thinking back there. I do like Tyler Gillespie from Missouri. He's a solid player. Missouri actually had 2 pretty good safeties this year. But my favorite pick is the Morig pick, right? This is a team that is going to be running that Seattle-style cover 3. Dan Quinn is in the house now. And on paper, you'd think Jonathan Abram would be that Cam Chancellor box safety type. They needed an Earl Thomas. They needed a single high canopy safety. And Morig was the best in the class in this. So to go up, I think they traded up even hour, but to go get him is a good get by them. And hopefully it doesn't lead to another game like we saw last year with the Broncos when they went up against the Raiders, where Broncos turned the ball over like crazy, because Morig can be a ball hawk. So I think overall, I know grading drafts right after they happen is a futile practice. But I still think it's something good here to kind of talk about where these guys went, the value, the fits, et cetera, and we'll see how it plays out. But I would give this a C. I think that you could have gotten better in the first round. I would have, like, Christian Darrisaw was there. They need help all along the defense. There were some guys there they could have gone with. The Morig bumps it up a lot, but then round 3 on, I think it's just okay. So I'm going to give it a C.
Yeah, and I think, if you're going in, you look at some of the players that were still available at the time. Chris Rumpf goes to the Chargers.
Yeah, we'll get to
so
it.
not only did you not take that guy, he ended up in your division. Ellerson Smith, you've heard me say that name before. He goes to the Giants. He went in round 4. That's a guy I probably would have taken on there. And someone up here, Charlie, I think it was Charlie Beagle, says that Divine Diablo is great for the name alone. And I agree. That's what I was going to say too. I was like, I would buy that shirt. And Divine Diablo, come on, that's the best name in the draft. I said this before. I thought when he was at the Senior Bowl and I kept hearing Diablo being called, I thought they were calling a scheme until I realized that was the Virginia Tech safety out there. So I thought that he was again, that's a bit of a reach at 3. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what it comes down to. It's like, there's other players on the board in these spots that you think at the same position have a little bit more potential. Especially when you get down there, you can take a chance on some of those guys. But when I look at the top, I'm not nearly as critical about Alex Leatherwood, and I think the 2nd round pick was a really, really good pick.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you here. And let's just kind of take a step back, making sure we don't have any supers here. And guys in the chat, let us know what you think about the Raiders draft as well. Drop your grades in there, and we'll flash them up here. But this Raiders offensive line, I think Derek Carr is a pretty underrated quarterback. I think his head is bumping in that top 10. You could put him anywhere from like 14 to 8 any given year. But one thing about Derek Carr is he turns into a pumpkin when pressure gets near him. I mean, it's just the way it is. He's not tough in the pocket. He's an accurate quarterback. I think he has actually pretty good down the field accuracy. And I was excited to watch. Excited. I mean, they're the Raiders. I hate them, but Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller kind of combination where they can run things off of that duo is a lot of fun. But man, I do not trust Derek Carr without an offensive line. And right now, the Raiders scheduled offensive line this year. Colton Miller, really good, took some steps forward. That's fine. Richie Incognito, who is nearing the end of his career, and he's had a lot of injuries. Andre James is the starting center. Denzel Good is the starting right guard. And then Alex Leatherwood at right tackle. That offensive line, especially the interior, is going to give them some issues this year. Derek Carr, actually, I think he struggles more with the interior pressure than the edge rushers. So I don't know, man. I think this is a team that, even though they beat the Broncos twice last year, I would be shocked if they were not the last place ranked team in the division this season, just because the Broncos defense is going to be that much better. You're not going to see the same injuries. I think there's an argument for Chargers Broncos for 2. But I don't know. I think this is a team that is trending the wrong way quickly. And because of John Gruden's contract structure, we got Peter Peter Middleton coming in here. How does he keep in a job with these bad drafts? The $100 million deal has to be broken soon. Well, guys, unlike player contracts, those coaches' contracts are 100% guaranteed. So you want to be paying that guy the rest of his deal on top of a new coach, especially for a team that is rumored to have some financial troubles right now, especially with building that new stadium. Like they're not raking in the cash. I don't know. I don't know. So, man, this Raiders team, I think Mr. Boggins giving them an E for excellent. Mr. Boggins, why would you do that? No,
E for effort. Participation trophy. We're going to give them the E for effort.
Yes.
Good try.
Absolutely.
Good try, guys. Better luck next time.
Yeah, no. So that's the one that I was thinking was an okay draft, but probably my least favorite of the AFC West. So do you have any parting thoughts before we move on to let's go to the Chargers next. Let's save the Chiefs for last.
How's Richie Incognito still in the league? That was my parting thought when you said that name. Yeah. I'm like, isn't he like 50 and a kind of a troublemaker? Yeah. Another part of that is, I'm shaking my head when you say it. It's like, unlike players who are out there risking their neck, life, limb, and injury, the coaches' contracts are guaranteed.
Yeah.
Nice
yep, that's the way to go. I can't believe we haven't seen more players do the Kirk Cousins route where they take less to get more guarantees. Maybe we'll see that eventually, or the CBA asking for fully guaranteed or higher guaranteed contracts. So
yeah, I mean, of all the sports, all the major sports, the one that is the most dangerous and has the shortest shelf life is the one that has the non-guaranteed contract.
Yep,
that's what a monopoly will do for you, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for football players.
It really, really is. So we got some questions here in the chat, guys. We're not going to neglect you. We're obviously going to get to if you drop a super, but there's some other ones in here. So we got Corey Johnson coming over in on YouTube, guys. If you are joining us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share, and also check out Scott's channel, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Well, I pull that up here for 1 second. Chad keeps adding things, so they keep moving around. There we go. Make sure you guys check that out. But we got Corey saying, do you guys see Duke Dawson as a number 2 safety, or would you go with a rookie instead? So you're talking about the depth safety, I believe, here, not the number 2 safety as in like Kareem Jackson. So you're going to have a camp battle, but the way these teams are set up and the way that you want to build a roster is you need to lean. The guy that was drafted, more years of control, probably better projection, is going to get the nod if it's close. Duke Dawson has been in the league for 4 years now, hasn't really taken it by storm as a second-round pick. And if he's outright better than the rookies, Jamar Johnson, Caden Stearns, he'll make the team. But if it's at all close, are you taking Duke Dawson with a 1-year contract or Jamar Johnson, Caden Stearns with a 4-year contract? Right? It's about team building long term. You want to have those cheap, cost-controlled rookies that can provide that depth. So you're not looking to fill, like the Falcons, unfortunately, 20 UDFAs. That's not a way to build good depth on your roster. If you are leaning into those and depending on those. So Duke Dawson could be the guy, but the young guys are going to get the chance and be given or get every chance to be proven that they don't deserve it.
Old, expensive, and non-productive is a tough place to be in the world.
Yes. God. Just ask Chad. No, I'm just kidding. Chad's been so busy with the draft season and the baby on the way, man. He's an Iron Man. I don't know how he's getting it done. Speaking of getting it done, Rebels Legacy coming in here saying, good morning. What if the whole Aaron Rodgers situation was put out by the Packers set up for this move? They drafted his replacement and he's a reigning MVP. Would his value ever be higher? I feel like this is actually tanking his value, right? If his value was higher, he wouldn't have all this drama surrounding him, and like they wouldn't be limiting the teams, and they would have traded him before the draft, right? Like if the Packers were trying to trade him next, you could have gotten the 49ers with the 3rd overall pick or the Dolphins when they had the 3rd overall pick. Now you're trading for 2022 picks. Where's that going to be? Especially with a team that has Rodgers on it. So if you're trying to maximize value, they would have traded him well before the draft because you know where those picks are rather than the general, like, oh, it could be anywhere. It could be picking 32 for the team you trade Rodgers to. So, and this is definitely coming.
I read a quote from Kyle Shanahan saying we'd be stupid not to pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
And he said, so we, when we find out, he said, I would have hated to woke up the day after the draft and find out that he'd been traded and us not do our due diligence. So we made the call, and it was about that long. The general manager over at Green Bay said, you're wasting your time. Okay. And hung up.
It's really going to be interesting to see what happens here. I think there is especially for quarterbacks, kind of an awakening of how much power they actually have And they're playing their hand, especially somebody like Rodgers and been in the league this long. And it's a little different than Deshaun Watson, obviously, for a multitude of reasons now. But the 37-year-old who has interest outside of football, has a movie star, actress, fiance, and potentially a Jeopardy gig in the bag. I think Rodgers would be perfectly fine walking away from the game. He wants to go out there and maximize his time, but I think he'd be perfectly fine. And if the Packers call that bluff, then they're going to have a chance to lose out on a lot of capital that could jumpstart the career of Jordan Love. So it's a dangerous game. It's a really dangerous game they're playing.
But what we talked about is if he walks away and retires, that's not bad for the Packers. That's almost preferable to having to trade him and eat that cap hit. You're almost better off waiting, and you can't waive him. So him retiring would be about the best thing for them. I don't know. I don't see it happening.
Oh man, I would rather have 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, but that's gone. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But yeah, if you get 3 first-round draft picks, of course. But we mentioned is his value, is it higher? It's as high as it's ever going to be. He's old.
Yeah.
Every day his value comes down a little bit. So, if you can get 3 first-round draft picks for him, sure. And just watching the comments down here, talking about Watson, I'm like, if you're building for the next 10 years, absolutely. Watson's worth more. Forget everything. I'm just talking about, we're playing Madden here, and I'm playing Madden franchise here, and I'm not talking about off the field stuff.
You're not playing blitz the
but
league.
If you're just talking about pure talent, Deshaun Watson's worth all of those picks that the 49ers sent for Trey Lance. Aaron Rodgers, if I'm one player away, if I'm the 49ers and I'm trading up to do that, maybe. If I'm a team drafting in the top 5, no, I need those picks more than I need Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to help my team enough to mortgage the future to get him when I don't have a present.
Yeah, and I think this really does line up for the Broncos to make a move, in my opinion. I would be happy to trade 3 firsts, Tim Patrick, and an interior offensive lineman for Aaron Rodgers. And everybody's like, oh man, you're mortgaging your future. Nothing's guaranteed in the future. This Broncos team is a quarterback away from competing. The defense is as deep as it's been since 2015. The offensive weapons are all cost controlled essentially, and the offensive line is bringing everybody back. Like, if you plug in Aaron Rodgers on this team, I really think they could displace the Chiefs. That's how much talent there is on this team, and that's how much you're talking about going from literally a bottom 3 quarterback in the NFL last year to the MVP. So it would be amazing. Obviously, there's a little bit of growth that occurs and that you're going to miss out on, like the chemistry and whatnot. But I don't know, man. I would make that move if I'm the Broncos. I know that, like, he's 37 years old. I get it, but defenses are
I'd make that move. I would make that move too. But don't you think it's already been discussed?
I think it has, but it's the June 1st thing. I think it's the way the cap works. June 2nd, look out for it. That would be when it would be, because they could split that dead cap 2 years. And that makes it much more financially viable for them to do so. So if it's going to happen, June 2nd.
All right, start your clock.
Oh, man. If it happens, I'm going to be giddy. We're going to have to do something silly on here to really make up for that. So let's get over here now to the Chargers draft class here. I can really pull it up. There it is. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yep, awesome. So the Chargers, I will be honest, they had one of my favorite drafts in this NFL draft cycle, unfortunately, and it really just bats off with the first 2 picks here. Honestly, 2 picks that I thought the Broncos maybe would have even made leading into the draft. Like, if somebody gave Rashaan Slater to the Broncos at 10 and then Asante Samuel to the Broncos at 40, I'd have been like, yep, that's exactly what they're going to do. That makes total sense. If they don't go quarterback, that's the way they're going to go. Alas, both these guys went over to the Chargers, who are playing the Broncos the scheme. Brandon Staley is going over there. So the match quarters, the cover 4, cover 6 going on. So let's just get down to it. Rashaan Slater, a lot of people had him as the number 1 offensive lineman in this class, apparently, in the league. Not me. I had Sewell higher, but good to see Sewell go first. But Slater, he got dinged or flagged for a back concern, apparently at the combine rechecks, but he's going to be really good. And one thing about Slater for the Chargers is that they've had so many issues on that offensive line for ever. Like, they were literally the worst offensive line in football last year. It's not even close. The fact that Justin Herbert did anything is incredible with how bad that O-line was. Slater can play all 5 spots. So if you have a weakness there, you plug him in, you're going to get that much better for it. That flexibility is key, and it's going to keep Justin Herbert healthy and upright. So that's great. And then Asante Samuel, he's not going to be a scheme fit for every team. For match quarters, especially with Staley, where they're going to move him inside, outside, a lot of off coverage, he's a fantastic tackler. He's twitchy. He's got to work on his own instincts, but he's got good ball instincts as well. These first 2 picks for a team that has their franchise quarterback set is about. I mean, it's about as good as it can get, and they hit 2 premium positions in their 2 top 50 picks. So it's unfortunate, and obviously the turf monster sometimes eats up some of those Charger players before the season even gets going. But well done, Telesco, man. This is another good draft. I'm a little. They're not the Chiefs, but I'm a little concerned about this direction of the Chargers franchise as a Bronco fan.
Yeah, and I think you really like. There's a lot to like in those picks, and you can tell they were at the Senior Bowl. Josh Palmer, Senior Bowl. Trey McKinney, Senior Bowl. Brennan James, Senior Bowl. Larry Roundtree, Senior Bowl. Mark Webb, Senior Bowl. So I've seen a lot of these guys in person. And Rashaan Slater, some people thought he could be, one of the top 10 guys, the first OL off the board. Nice pick. Asante Samuel Jr., again, somebody that slid down the board. Really nice pick. Josh Palmer, when I started putting his highlights up on my YouTube page and sharing them out, the Tennessee fans were kind of pissed. They were like, see what this guy can do with a decent quarterback. So they were a little pissed that, that he's kind of been wasted for them. Trey McKinney was one of the top overall performers at the Senior Bowl, period. He bounced back and forth, and another one of those players that he went to University of Georgia, talked about there were a lot of weapons there, and maybe he was underutilized a bit. So a very good pick. Brennan James, I keep seeing tackle, and I keep thinking guard. Everything I watch out of him just screams guard to me. We're talking about a guard body from the university, from Nebraska. Sounds like a guard to me. And how much I like Larry Roundtree. I was talking about him a lot as running backs that you can get really good depth. He was at the Senior Bowl too, catches the ball well. Nice, compact, 225 pounds. So he runs with good power. So I think that's a really nice pick in the 6th round there too. So good draft. I think they did a really good job with this draft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. This is a good one, and I got to give a shout out to my guy, Nick Niemann. He is go Hawks, right? I got to get my Iowa Hawkeye jab in here. His dad is the linebacker coach at Iowa, and his brother plays linebacker for the Chiefs as well. So those Niemanns have been around for a bit, and I thought Niemann could go as high as the 4th round, go all the way to the 6th. He tested pretty well, and he's one of those linebackers that he doesn't make many plays behind the line of scrimmage. I don't think he is the most aggressive attacker of the football, but man, he is safe. He doesn't get beat deep. He's going to play gap sound with good integrity in that back 7. And that's really what you need in this defense. You want to keep everything in front of you, make the offense matriculate the ball down the field, and not give up the big plays. So I like Nick Niemann a lot here. And Chris Rumph also. Talk about another guy who's a coach's son. I think Chris Rumph's dad is the offensive or outside linebacker coach, edge rusher coach for the Chicago Bears. He's a little bit of a tweener, but he has good length. And he's a guy who can do a lot of the same stuff like you see from Malik Reed, right? Like he can drop into space, he can do some drop zones, or he can rush. And he doesn't have the frame where you want him banging against offensive tackles in base. But, as a sub-package edge rusher, you can do a lot worse there. Really bendy guy too. And he's so advanced with his technique. If he had a better frame, you'd be talking about a guy who could be a 1st round pick, honestly. But, smaller, that's just going to be the way it is. So I had a question here from, I don't want to ignore you, buddy. 1 second. I'll find it. Oh, so what's your least favorite pick of all these ones while I find this comment that I want to get to?
I don't know as much about the one that you mentioned was Nick Niemann.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say least favorite. I'm just going to say, I'm going to plead ignorance on this. Just not enough information. I don't know nearly as much about him as I do some of the other guys, but there's not any head scratchers for me in here. There's all like, oh yeah, that's either where they should have gone, or maybe you got them a little later.
Even Trey McKinney, like that, I feel like that's a little early for Trey McKinney for me. In the 3rd round, you're talking about top 100.
I put him in my top 5 guys at the Senior Bowl.
Wow.
Okay. He had a couple of catches that were one of those. It's pretty quiet. They're playing music. It's kind of boring. Yeah. Every once in a while, you'll hear, there's a couple hundred media people in attendance, and coaches from all over. Every once in a while, you'll hear a big whoa moment. And Trey McKinney had 2 of those with some really good catches. He showed. Let me see what he measured at the Senior Bowl.
And he was a transfer, correct?
And he didn't do a ton. No. But he measured 6'4" and 1/8", 247 pounds, 81-inch wingspan with 11-inch hands. And I believe his 11-inch hands were the biggest there, because I remember having hearing comments about them of being, he showed them off. He's out there playing with, lacrosse baskets, with that kind of wingspan and reach. That Trey McKinney, he's a guy. He's absolutely a guy. I really like that pick.
Yeah, and do you think that Trey McKinney puts his 11-inch hand size on his Tinder profile? That's for all the young.
I've never been on Tinder. I miss the digital revolution in dating, considering I was married in 2000. So my question though is, because I always thought you measured hands here. Where are we? From here to here, but that's impossible. They must measure them from here to here. Yep. They've got to measure them like that, because I was like, I can palm a basketball, and I was like, I've got 8-inch hands. I can palm a basketball. There's no way these guys have 11-inch hands. Okay, from here to here, it's like 9 1/4. I'm like, okay, that makes more sense then.
100%. And there's another measurement too that I wish they would change in the NFL when they do arm length. They do from the shoulder to the fingertip. But how often are offensive linemen engaging like that? Like the, what is it, Captain Insano, the eye poke from Waterboy? No, I thought Joe Thomas very much has been a proponent of this arm length from the shoulder to the wrist, because that's your actual reach when you're an offensive lineman. I wish they would actually get to that. And I know some teams, when they bring in offensive linemen, they go by that, because they think that who cares about that when you're an offensive lineman. So will be interesting. I want to get to Caden coming in here, watching in class, being a naughty child. Going to get detention later, Caden. No, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Let us know where you're joining us from too. So Caden saying, do you guys think Javonte Williams will be a starter in a year or so? And makes it easy to say the last. Okay, well, he asked earlier, do you think Javonte Williams could be the Broncos starter this season? And if there's an injury, absolutely. But I think it's probably, there's a little bit of a cantankerous relationship between the Broncos fans and Melvin Gordon, because how much Broncos fans loved Phillip Lindsay and what that Melvin Gordon contract meant for Phillip Lindsay. But guys, Melvin Gordon's a top 10 running back. And down the stretch last year, he was a top 5 running back. And that's despite the Broncos' interior offensive line playing really poor in the run blocking situation specifically. So Javonte Williams, yes, he's going to get a chance to take the rock a lot, but don't sleep on Melvin Gordon. I really wouldn't. He was pretty good last year. He's still a good back. He's got to work on ball control, but he's an all-around back, and I'm excited to see what he can do this season, especially with
and I have two comments on that, Nick. One is nobody's going through 17 games without getting a nick. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. So it's a matter of time. And on that, people are using their running back so interchangeably for the most part that he's going to get his opportunities. So do we expect him to get starters type of carries? Yes, I do. So we'll see. But I expect to see him plenty when it comes down to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got Ernie Mays coming in, one of the super fans over in the Broncos Facebook page, always posting great stuff. One of the biggest diehards out there. So shout out to Ernie, man. We love you. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we got Chris L saying, blame Zach. Hey, man, sometimes Zach and I have different takes, but that's great. We are very much on the opposite end of the spectrums on some things. But if we all thought the same way, it would be really, really boring. So we're still talking about this Chargers draft class here. I thought they did about as good of a job with those first 2 picks as I can think of. Obviously, had some good depth here as well. And we got Ann Rivera joining us here saying, bummed the Broncos didn't get Rashaan Slater. He could be our right tackle of the future when we get rid of James. Well, and I don't know if this will make you feel better or worse, but I have it on pretty good authority that the Broncos had eyes on offensive tackles multiple times in this draft class at pick. When they traded down to the 3rd round, the guy that they wanted went 1 pick before, Brady Christensen. I think they wouldn't have traded down if Christensen was available, alas. I think even the Carolina Panthers traded up for him maybe, but so Christensen off the board. There goes 1 tackle option. And then the Broncos had their eyes on Spencer Brown at the end of the 3rd. Bills take him. And
how awesome would that have been? I would have been a Broncos legend right away if they took Spencer Brown, at least until he flops, and then they would have hated me. It was all Scott's fault. I love Spencer. I mean, y'all know what I think about Spencer Brown. This is your first time watching, and there probably are some. I love Spencer Brown. I think he was a 1st-round talent that got picked in the 3rd. That would have been a lot of fun if he had gone to the Broncos. I might have had to get a brown jersey.
Yeah, and I gave the Broncos on day 2 an A- because of the process of trading up for Javonte Williams. Like I know you got a running back, and the Dolphins would have taken him, but I would have been probably happier with a few other players there at pick 40 than to give up another like a early 4th round pick. which could have been a developmental defensive lineman or something. But alas, Javonte Williams, I'm excited to have him. It is what it is. But if the Broncos would have gotten Spencer Brown and then Baron Browning with those 2 third-round picks, I mean, I don't even care if they traded up for running back. I'd have been over the moon.
I think it's interesting to see who the Falcons took with that pick, and I believe that was center Drew Dahlman with pick 114.
Yes. Yep.
In the 4th round, which is a player who could end up being a starter for them. Alex Mack went to the 49ers as a free agent, as an older guy, and was a really good player for the Falcons for several years. So he's got a chance to come in and be a starter out of Stanford. And his dad coached for a couple of years with the Falcons too. So you always kind of look, and that's not who the Broncos likely would have taken in that spot, but that's who the Falcons took with that pick, was Drew Dahlman.
Yeah. I would have been an advocate for Bobby Brown, a defensive lineman from Texas A&M who went to the Rams. And defensive line, it's that position where you get that guy and don't even think of, I mean, how good is Draymond Jones right now for the Broncos? He's really good. Didn't make much of a peep his rookie year. How much did McTelvin Agim, a top 100 pick last year, do for the Broncos? Not much. So that's a position where you take a guy and you're not depending on him his rookie year. You're thinking 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. And so you want to make sure you're investing in that before you need it. Because if you have a glaring need in the interior defensive line and you go into the draft and say, like, well, if I don't come out of here with a top 10 pick, that guy's not even going to be that good rookie. I mean, Quinnen Williams, another one, number 2 overall pick, I think, or 3. And really took a big step his second season. So that's probably what I would have looked to do, but it is what it is. I'm excited to have Javonte Williams in here, and he'll be great if he's as good as advertised. And we have BX Bronco Jedi saying we could have had the best tandem if Williams is as good as advertised. I will push back a little bit. I think Gordon and Williams can be great, but the Browns with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, it would be pretty darn hard to pass them. That is a spectacular duo. Those are 2 top 10 running backs in the NFL in my book. And George Fox saying Melvin Gordon has some drops when he runs, not good. Yep, he's got to work on that ball control. I'm very much running the football does matter, but EPA per play, passing plays are much more valuable. You're more likely to score a touchdown, more likely to take it to the end zone from anywhere. But if your running back is dropping the football, yikes, can't have that. And the other offensive tackle the Broncos were about to take and then got sniped, Tommy Doyle from Miami, Ohio. Buffalo took 2 offensive tackles that the Broncos were about to take. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But we appreciate you guys for that, for all the comments here. So Chargers had a good good draft in general. I want to get to this real quick. So the Chargers versus Broncos, I think, is going to be a really interesting dynamic this season. They had a couple of really fun games last year, but this Chargers team is ascending. They have a franchise quarterback, but they consistently have had issues in the offensive line. The defense can't stay healthy. Honest to God, I'm not really sure where Derwin James is going to fit in this defensive scheme, because the safeties for this match quarters defense, they're not really asked to do that much in run support, right? It's like, don't get beat deep, play coverage deep. And you're really losing a lot of value from Derwin James, playing him that deep off the ball. So what are your thoughts on the makeup of this Chargers team heading into this offseason, or heading into, I guess, the dead period of the offseason?
The makeup of the team for me, I don't know them nearly as well as you do. So okay. I'm looking at where they're trying to, fit holes and stuff. I know that, they weren't a great team last year, but they got a rookie quarterback who should get better. They got an enforcer that should help them out. They had a good draft. So, I think they should continue to progress, or do we hit the sophomore slump? It's called that for a reason with players. The sophomore slump is a real thing. One of my favorite phrases is, how do you think they become stereotypes? People say you shouldn't stereotype. Well, how do you think they got that way? It's because it happens a lot more often than usual. So, you don't want to use the cliche, but it's definitely something to watch for them. Does he continue to progress? Then they're going to continue to progress. Does he get found out a little bit? Maybe not. So to me, that would be what I would watch for him as a second-year quarterback. How does he do in his second year?
And we have let off the show talking a little bit of data analysis. Justin Herbert last year, if he wasn't the best, he was darn close to a quarterback rating under pressure. And we have years and years of data with going for quarterbacks under pressure, and it is not a sustainable statistic. It fluctuates wildly. So one year you'll have a quarterback who is fantastic under pressure. The next year they'll regress to the mean. So I would expect regression from Herbert in that area, especially with what we saw from him at Oregon. His pocket presence, his ability under pressure wasn't always the best. Granted, he didn't have weapons that could separate at Oregon. They did good offensive line there with while he was in Eugene, but not really NFL receivers that he has now, obviously. But I would expect some regression with that statistic specifically, just given what we know historically about it. And but still, he's going to take steps forward in other areas, and I think he's going to be pushing for that top 15, top 10 quarterback this season, which is unfortunate. You might have top 15 quarterbacks, top 10 quarterbacks in the AFC West. So it's an arms race, and the Broncos are leaning into the defense. They can do that this year, but we'll see how it works out long term. Hopefully, if the Broncos do go with Drew Lock, he ends up becoming a good quarterback. Either way, though, he has value on his rookie contract. So we got Mr. Boggins coming in again, keeping the lights on for Broncos for Breakfast. We really appreciate that. And anybody dropping supers out there, we'll make sure to get your comments because they light up on our screen. So can't miss them. With a $2 super, Mr. Boggins, thank you so much. Does Kush have a chance to start over Miners? Ooh, so you're saying Miners is the odds-on favorite for the interior offensive line this year. I don't want to throw too much shade, but and you know how much Vic Fangio has praised Cushenberry in the offseason and whatnot, but let's call it as it is. Cushenberry was one of the worst starting interior offensive linemen in football last year. I thought he wasn't actually that good his senior year at LSU. He was okay, but a lot of it was Joe Burrow getting the ball out quickly, the 5 wide, making good reads. And Cushenberry, not much movement at the point of attack in the run game. So you should see that more with Miners. However, Miners, I know he was dominant at the Senior Bowl. He was great. Everybody loved him. The crop top shirt, beautiful. The guy can dunk too, apparently. I love it. But he is going from Division III football, Wisconsin Whitewater, to the NFL, especially from guard to center as well. So I look at it more like when you draft a rookie quarterback, like you have the guy that's the incumbent there for a bit, and then whenever that rookie's ready to take over, you see them go. So I think Cushenberry is going to get the chance out of the gate, but if he struggles and Miners is starting to really get more comfortable with the scheme, protections, snapping the football, et cetera, then you see that take over. But out of the gate, I'd be pretty darn shocked if Cushenberry wasn't the starter.
Yeah, but it's nice to have that competition,
Yes.
coming in. Can Miners then displace them as they move forward? And they, it's a 17-week season now. Those guys aren't rookies anymore the last 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
So can he adapt and push him out? That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, 100%. And we got some Browns comments in here. Browns going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. I absolutely love what the Browns did in this draft. They struggled against the Chiefs this year. So what do? They go out and get another cornerback, one of my favorites in the class, and Greg Newsome. And then they go out and get a potential tight end eraser in Jeremiah Osukoromo, and just adding weapons, or I guess erasers, in that defensive back 7. That's how you got to beat the Chiefs. And of course, they got Myles Garrett there. They brought in Trey McKinley. They brought in Malik McDowell. We'll see how that works out. But that Browns team, man, I am really excited about them this year. Will they replace the Steelers as the top dogs? I have a hard time getting past the Ravens as, in my opinion, the top dog in that division. I mean, the Ravens have had like 4 losing seasons in their career, in their history as the Baltimore Ravens, which is insane, absolutely insane, especially because they haven't had a Hall of Fame quarterback there. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. The Browns are really going to be fun this year. I'm really interested to see what happens with Baker Mayfield and his contract, because I think Baker Mayfield's good. Is he resetting the quarterback market, or top 5 quarterback contract good?
But again, when you're talking about the Browns, let's put this in perspective. I was born in Akron. I got a lot of family up there. So I was a Cleveland bored Atlanta fan. I expect to lose.
Yeah. The dog pound.
I'm just waiting for them to Cleveland it up. I'm just waiting for the muck-ups, and they've done some good things in there. But Baker Mayfield's going to be, a cult hero for what he's been able to do. Not even a cult hero; he's going to be a hero in Cleveland. So the value of having him is going to put him up higher. But will he want to stay in Cleveland? Those guys are tough to move around. If he is your franchise guy, it's tough to move those guys around when they're in their prime. Doesn't happen real often. Looking at their draft, I like. There's a good mix of football players. Jeremiah Osukoromo is one of those guys. I think he slid a little bit. That was one of the questions I saw yesterday. Why is he sliding? I'm like, because he doesn't necessarily have a position. But with a player like him, just put him on the field. He'll find the ball. We talked about Richie LeCounte at Georgia. He's a 4'8" safety at 185 pounds. All he does is make plays. Yeah. So, but then you got a guy in the 3rd round they took out of Auburn named Anthony Schwartz. Look up, do a Google search real quick on Anthony Schwartz track.
My God.
He's the fastest guy in college football. So, he's someone that they can try and get the ball. So there's football players without the measurements, and then there's guys that have beyond the measurements that aren't quite the same football players that make for some good picks in there. So interested in what they're doing, and I hope they keep it going. I think it's good for football when it's good for football when teams that are perennially just sitting down collecting revenue and not competing are competing again. It's good for the league.
Yeah, hello Bills, hello Browns, man. Welcome to the NFL. Haven't seen you in a bit, but we love you, and congrats to those fan bases, right? Cold weather, blue-collar cities, getting some good football out there, some quarterbacks they can rally around. You love it. You love it. I love Dominique coming in here saying, hello, what's up, Broncos family? Hello to you, Dominique. And we got the Stripper Slayer, coming in with a $5 super. Hopefully you treat everyone with respect. SSH.
Stiper.
Yeah.
There's a big difference with an R in there.
Stiper. Oh my God. Well, that's guys.
He's not out there knocking off dancers. I don't think.
Oh my God. The Stipers. I read this. Okay. Drew Lock will have a much better season now that he has Sutton. Oh my God. I need coffee. Well, I'm glad I didn't turn really red there. Yeah, Drew Lock is going to have a better year this year, guys. I have no doubt about it. I guess the real question is Drew Lock going to be the starter, right? Like you have Teddy Bridgewater coming in, and what's this Broncos team built to do right now? They're built to be a defensive oriented team, and their quarterback just play that old school point guard, distribute it, take care of the ball, and just don't put the defense in a bad situation. Ride the defense. And I really think that he's dying. I'm sorry. Stiper. Oh my God. God bless. So I really think that I know Teddy Bridgewater doesn't really move the needle that much, but with this defense, as good as it is, and with the weapons that they have, I think that Teddy Bridgewater, I would put him as the odds-on favorite as the starter right now. You just can't have games like Drew Lock in that Kansas City away game. Broncos are moving the ball. It's great. It's great. It's like 2nd and 6, and Drew Lock throws a WTF YOLO ball to the Chiefs defense. You can't have that. You can't have that with this team the way it's built. And Shermer doesn't want that. Vic Fangio doesn't want that. Protect the football. Don't put it in harm's way, and get the ball to your playmakers, because this Broncos team is not lacking for playmakers.
And when he was in an offense in New Orleans that specialized in a shorter passing game accuracy, he had the best touchdown to interception ratio of his career. It was like 9-2 and 5-0 as a starter. That's what you're looking for. I don't. Carolina, Cam Newton elevated them so much on offense compared to what they had around him that throwing someone else in there to me wasn't fair. As far as, he wasn't very good at Carolina. Carolina had to get some weapons. They had one giant weapon with the ball in his hands, 80 snaps a game, and he elevated that team on offense. But Teddy Bridgewater his career touchdown to interception ratio isn't great.
No.
But I think the 1 year where he was asked to just don't go mess it up in New Orleans, he was really good. 5-0 with a 9-2 touchdown interception ratio. I'll take that all day. I'll take for a team like the Broncos. You'll take that right now.
Yep, and also a quarterback that is good in 11 personnel, out of shotgun. A lot of stuff that Pat Shurmur wants to do with this Broncos offense. So we'll see what happens. And Drew Lock could take massive steps forward, protect the football. Maybe it clicks for him year 3. That would be awesome. That would honestly be best case scenario for the Broncos. Drew Lock develops and becomes a top 15 quarterback this season. This team has a chance to win a playoff game. But I think right now, based on what we've seen, protecting the football, moving, also just accuracy, getting the ball to playmakers in time where they can do something after the catch. Right now, I would lean towards Teddy Bridgewater, even though it's somewhat of a milquetoast move. We all call it as we see it. Mike Gibbons coming in here. Do you think the Broncos might use Baron Browning to replace Von Miller? So what are your thoughts here? Obviously, you saw Baron Browning down at the Senior Bowl. He was probably my favorite pick the Broncos had in this draft class, given where they got him. And I really think there is a pathway where Baron Browning is that 3-4 Sam in this defense going forward. I think you're going to see him this year kind of try to figure it out. Is it going to be a will? I'm not going to put Mike on him because he had some issues with instincts and processing at Ohio State. So I don't want to put that whole, reading everything, setting up the defense responsibilities of the Mike. But Will versus 3-4 Sam, I think it'd go either way.
I like him on the outside. Like you're saying, I like him on the outside going forward. Jam the tight end, blow up a blocking back, seek and destroy. And that's where he can be. And Von Miller's been a lot like that in his career too. So Is he going to have the pass rushing acumen that Von Miller does? Not yet, but can he? He's certainly got the athleticism to develop into that type of player. But I like him on the outside. He does best going forward. I don't want him dropping back in coverage as his primary concern. I want him going forward. That's where he's best.
Yeah, 100%. We got some people pushing back here. That's great. I love it. Let's not all have the same opinion here. Carolina had DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. They also had Rodney Anderson. And Teddy was still a bottom 5 quarterback. Well, actually, I think he was in that 15 to 20 range based on the EPA per play and CPOE. We'll see what happens there. But he definitely – there's a reason the Broncos were able to get him for a 6th-round pick. Now, probably you could get a little bit more in a year where the salary cap isn't condensed, but the Panthers had limited suitors then. And also I think this was a nod to the Panthers doing right by Teddy, giving him to a situation because by all accounts, a great guy.
No, we're not saying you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers that he immediately makes you a Super Bowl contender. We're saying that he can come in and be a care holder. What's the word I'm looking for? Caretaker. And he can push Drew Lock, and it should make them both better. It gives you a little bit of insurance and hopefully gives you another year to maybe think about getting a quarterback in the next year or two, or you get Aaron Rodgers, and you forget about those two guys because then it's not a competition anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you a lot. He said it's a hedge. Yep, that's the word the Broncos would use as well. And Phoenix coming in here saying, I'd rather have Lock's aggression over Teddy's play it safe attitude. We should maximize the talent.
Teddy's not a play it safe guy. I promise you, he's not. Teddy at his best is a drop him back in a shotgun, put him in a 2-minute offense, and let him go to work. That's Teddy Bridgewater at his very best. Is he going to be that guy? Right now, he hasn't quite been that guy since his injury, but his best is running a 2-minute offense. That's Teddy's best. Yeah.
And the way this Broncos team is built right now, obviously you have a Cortland Sutton and a Tim Patrick who can do some stuff down the field vertically. Not that, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant can't, but the way Drew Lock plays quarterback and his inaccuracy in general, but also in timing, you're really limiting the yak ability for those guys who can be playmakers in space in KJ Hamler, in Jerry Jeudy, in Noah Fant. And that's kind of what Pat Shurmur wants, right? He's got some influence from Andy Reid, but he also got some influence from, who is the Chip Kelly? Also the spread stuff. So if you can get the ball to those Broncos quick separators, those guys who can win off the line of scrimmage and then be dangerous after the catch in short yardage areas, I think that leans more towards Teddy than Lock, but we're fixing to find out. And maybe in a month, we won't even have to worry about it because we'll have Aaron Rodgers in Denver. So believe in your dreams, folks. We got to get to the Chiefs here before we get on out of here. So let me pull up this Chiefs draft class before we get going too far down here. I appreciate everybody coming into. Appreciate everybody with the supers. Actually, I think we had one here. Let's pull up this super from Malcolm Brown here real quick. And I'll let you answer this while I pull up this other bit here. So Malcolm Brown saying, which AFC West draftee did you guys want the most? Man, I could go a number of ways here. I think I'm going to have to go with Slater, just because he was the highest one, and I would have loved to have him. And would I rather have him in than Patrick Surtain? Probably going into the draft, I would have said yes. But now that I'm thinking about Surtain being not only a cornerback in this scheme, but also a tight end eraser, which I'm really excited about, given Waller and Kelsey being problems in the slot. I'm talking myself into it more and more, but Slater would have been great for this offensive line, and you really could have maximized him here. And again, just really had a synergistic effect for that whole entire offensive line just by plugging him in there.
All right, I'm going to leave first rounders off of this and the Broncos off of this. I think that's cheating. I like Nick Bolton a lot. I like Creed Humphrey a lot. But I also like Trevon Merrick a lot. So I'm going to go with the Raiders pick of Merrick in the middle of the second round as the guy I might have gone for there.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the super, Malcolm. We really appreciate you. Hope you're doing well down in Kansas with the new grandchild. Man, that is so awesome. I miss the heck out of my family. It's been a bit out here in the Pacific Northwest. They're all back in Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. So make sure you cherish it, buddy. So we got the Chiefs draft class here talking about Nick Bolton here. We got the Chiefs running down Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, Joshua Canadu, Noah Gray, former quarterback. I can't believe Noah Gray went over Brevin Jordan, but that's beside the point. Cornell Powell and Trey Smith. The Trey Smith was a really high recruit, and he has some good tape out there. He's pretty powerful, but I think he ends up on the ground too much. And of course, he falls to the 6 because of concerns with blood clots.
Mm-hmm.
So your thoughts on this Chiefs draft class? I thought they did a good job getting Creed Humphrey. However, in juxtaposition to Josh Myers and Creed Humphrey going back-to-back to end the second, and the Broncos getting Quinn Miners all the way at the end of the third, man, that makes that pick look that much better because I think Miners could be right up there with those guys.
Yeah, I agree. Creed, I thought, could sneak into the first round. Could play. He could play any one of 3 positions. Obviously, I think his best is on the interior line, but you can find your center right there. And when I look at that play, I look at that pick at the end of the second. I'm like, this is how teams at the top stay at the top. When they get like guys like this with a 63rd pick, and I said that about the Ravens with Odafe Owe. I'm like, this is how the Ravens always have good defenses. They're getting freaks of nature like this, at 29, or in the late 20s. So to me, the Creed Humphreys pick, I don't see anybody on this list that's going to concern you right now. It's like, oh, I don't want to face that guy. I don't want to face a Kyle Pitts. That's a guy that might scare you a little bit. I don't want to face a Devonta Smith or, one of the receivers or, some of the skill guys that are going to scare you right away. Nick Bolton was drafted. The Chiefs were 10th pretty much across the board in defense last year, running, passing, overall. So, he's there to help shore up the defense a little bit because they score plenty of points. I like Noah Gray. 5th round isn't a bad spot for him. He had a really good Senior Bowl as well. And then Trey Smith, again, if he's healthy and motivated and put a 6 next to his name like that, it's going to motivate him. I think he's already pretty pissed off about it. But he was subpar at the Senior Bowl. He wasn't a player that makes you think, I gotta take him higher. I thought him and I thought Leatherwood disappointed a little bit, but then Leatherwood didn't have any medical concerns, and he went on his pro day and really kicked butt. So that was a big difference. Not a 1st to 6th difference, not a 17 to 226 difference. That was more medicals, but Trey struggled a little bit, and he's got to show the ticker. Phrase I use all the time is, they say you can't measure somebody's heart, but you can damn sure tell if you've got one. And you got to look for the ticker in Trey Smith because he didn't look all that motivated in Mobile.
Yeah, and I like Nick Bolton here for the Chiefs. Obviously, they took Willie Gay Jr. last year in the 2nd round, and he had some off-the-field issues with Mississippi State, but a great athlete. And I think he can kind of compensate a little bit for Nick Bolton, who is a smarter, headier box player. With short arms, you don't want him in coverage. Like if the Broncos isolate Nick Bolton in space against Alberto Cuebanam or Noah Fant, that's where the ball's going because I don't think Nick Bolton is a very good space player, but in the box, setting up the defense in the right areas, and you can play him next to Willie Gay. I think that's a good projection there for the Chiefs. And overall, I like Creed Humphrey going here in the 2nd round to them. The Chiefs did the opposite of not the opposite, but very much mimicked the Broncos this past offseason where they saw there was a problem depth-wise on their offensive line in general, and they went full out, all out attack. They went after Trent Williams really hard. They didn't get him, but they trade for Orlando Brown Jr., who's essentially their 1st-round pick here. Not sure how that's going to work out for them contract-wise because they either have to franchise him or pay him next year after giving up a 1st probably. But here we are, maximizing your window, knowing that you have a chance to go right now with Patrick Mahomes. I respect it. Then they bring in Joe Thuney. They bring in Creed Humphrey. They signed Kyle Long. They have the doctor, Tardenif. I can't remember his last name. It's the hyphenated last name. They might be bringing back Mitchell Schwartz also at right tackle. So they identified offensive line as a weakness. They went out and attacked it, and that's really good. But I still think I'd probably lean with how good the Broncos turned over that secondary. And we got Kenneth Booker coming here. Speaking of that secondary, with the addition of Patrick Surtain, how do you rank the 2021 Denver Broncos secondary against the 2015 secondary? Who is the better defensive mind, Fangio or Phillips? Man, two-part question here. Both really thought-provoking, Kenneth. I'll kick it off to Scott first. Obviously,
I'm sitting this one out. I couldn't tell you. I didn't watch enough of the Broncos in 2015 to be able to. I'm gonna take a pass on this one, Nick.
Okay, well, I think on paper, honest to God, I think the Broncos secondary this season is better, deeper. You're so deep at cornerback, but are you going to get to all-pro type of seasons like the Broncos had in Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib that season? Also, the Broncos being able to maximize the value of their secondary, being all of them man cornerbacks, press man scheme, and that Wade Phillips cover one. They're more able to dictate than this defense. Also, the biggest thing probably, and it's, defense coverage helps pass rush helps coverage. I don't think you're going to see anybody on this Broncos defense this year play like 2015 Von Miller. 2015 Von Miller was probably the best defensive player in football, if not the J.J. Watt then. And while Von Miller's still great, and obviously Bradley Chubb's still good, it's not the same as what Von Miller was in 2015. Like that's a defensive defining piece. And you have those guys only typically, 3-4 years when they're at that level of play. I'm not expecting that from Von Miller at his 33 age year. On paper, though, the depth of this secondary, especially because, as good as we like TJ Ward, we like Darian Stewart, I'm taking Justin Simmons plus Kareem Jackson, even if he's close to the end, over that. So, and the depth here, I think on paper, this secondary is deeper, should be a little bit better, but are they going to have as good of seasons in a scheme that maximizes them as much as we saw in 2015 with Wade Phillips? I don't know. And as far as better defensive mind, Fangio or Phillips is really good, but one thing that makes Wade Phillips really good is that he's an incredible personality manager in the locker room, right? Like he can get along with a lot of different types of guys, and that matters in the NFL. So I'm honestly going to give Fangio the tick here. I think Phillips he's a good defensive coordinator, but he keeps things simple, stupid, right? He lets his talent go out there and the talent do stuff, but Fangio changes his scheme week to week, and he can get by with a lot lesser talent than Wade Phillips. He can close the gap between teams with scheme more than I think Phillips can. So while that 2015 defense was great, and I think that the pass rush of that 2015 defense is better than what you're going to see this year at the Broncos, I think I would honestly lean with the 2021 secondary and Fangio. Maybe I'll be made to look a fool. That's what happens when you try to project the future. A lot of times you're going to end up looking foolish, but that's honestly where I lean. So good question, Kenneth. That's a perfect off-season question out of the draft, kind of comparing where these guys are and where they fit compared to the bars you've seen over time. Good segment.
And you should cut that one out and do it as a separate story for your site, Nick.
Yeah,
that's a story right there. A good comparison.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see what happens here. The turn, looking at it. So guys, I think that's out of these classes. Let's just wrap it up. Let's put a coffee cap on it. Out of these classes, the AFC West, who impressed you the most? Which class do you think was the best?
Not
besides the Broncos.
Of the other three, I like the Chargers. I do. I like the Chargers class for all the reasons we talked about. Rashaan Slater, solid. You get a premier offensive tackle right there. You get a good corner. Then you get a couple of guys who might have underachieved a little bit in Josh Palmer and Trey McKinney in the third. So a lot of talent there. Brennan James, versatile offensive lineman. I love Larry Roundtree. To me, that just says where the running backs are. He's a pro. He's already a pro. He can break tackles, block, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. I like that pick. And then Chris Rumpf might be the overachiever. Another guy in the middle there, defensive end in round 4. So, of the other three, I like the Chargers the best, and I don't think that's going out on a limb.
I like the Chargers too, but that's because that's the only team in the AFC West that drafted an Iowa Hawkeye. So they automatically get like 10 points extra credit for doing that. No, I'm just kidding. They did a really good job. They let the board fall to them. And it's really annoying that year after year, the Chargers seem to be a team that is maximizing other teams letting talent pass. They did that with Derwin James falling all the way to 20, I believe, or something around there, or 17, which is insane because Derwin James is literally stands alone. And it's crazy. Are you familiar with the website Mock Draftable, Scott?
No, the one I was using kind of on that stuff was NFL draft database or NFL mock draft database. I forget which one it is that I kind of used to NFL draft database. Hell, I don't know what it is. It's bookmarked. NFL mock draft database.com. That's one that I kind of use as a reference when I'm looking around different things. They do a good job of compiling.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share this real quick because this kind of gave me an awakening I've always been a big Derwin James fan. I think he's a brilliant player. I'm not sure how he's going to fit in that match quarters defense unless he's going to be a tight end eraser. But let's look at Patrick Surtain right in here with his mock draftable. Beautiful spider web there, covering up a lot of area, kind of leaning into the not great short area quickness with the average 10-yard splits and 20-yard splits. But for a guy who has the size of Patrick Surtain, not bad, right? Like the bigger guys take a little bit longer. We're just talking some physics now. But when you look at this, kind of looks like Australia, doesn't it? What's going on? But number one comparison for all the defensive backs ever recorded, Derwin James, Patrick Surtain, Derwin James. So I think obviously that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I think that you see Patrick Surtain maybe being that weapon that is going
Yeah,
to be
and not ever. You see the numbers on that. It went to 2017. So, I said for, being the old guys stick in your head every once in a while. I called Randall Cobb. I called him Reggie Cobb the other day. There might be two people on here who know who Reggie Cobb is. He was a really good running back in the 80s for the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah.
But, when I said, the
1999.
ceiling for him is Rod Woodson, a very physical, long cornerback who transitioned to safety in the last couple of years of his career. So, my brain is stuck on old type of comparisons. And if you're looking for a physical guy, at corner who can cover, but who comes up and will force turnovers, the first guy that comes to mind when I'm thinking of somebody like that is Rod Woodson.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you talk about Surtain, Nick Saban raves about his intelligence. He would come to him with plays, and we're talking about one of the younger players in this class, still just 20 years old, will be 21 this year, but he'll come up with like different route combinations and whatnot, or offensive plays, and he says, okay, what's the best coverage for this? And Surtain would rattle it off instantly for being such a young guy. And
because I know that we had some new people coming in today, I didn't want to sound overly biased for Broncos for breakfast, but there's a lot to like about the Broncos class. Mm-hmm. You could say them and the Chargers real easy. Surtain, okay, we just talked about him. Javonte Williams, got a running back that can do everything, breaking tackles. Quinn Miners, a non-Power 5 guy who plugs right in the interior line. Baron Browning, a 4-5 running back linebacker at 250 pounds that is a ball destroyer moving forward. Yeah. Then you got an athlete, Caden Stearns. You take a chance on a prospect who's not necessarily have all the production, but he's got all the measurables. Well, that's a good place to get him if you're getting him in the 5th, for goodness sakes. Then you kind of go the other way with Jamar Johnson, who has the play but isn't necessarily as good an athlete. Seth Williams is a low-risk, huge ceiling wide receiver. He can do it all, but always was kind of like, was he going to just blow up, or he always just kind of hovered around that elite status. And then Jonathan Cooper is a guy that is just kind of Baron Browning light a little bit on the end. So
seems like an amazing person. Like all the videos of him, he seems like A+ character. I think fans are going to absolutely love him. I think he's also going to do incredible work in the community.
So, and I wanted to say thank to Mike Givens on the way out.
Yes.
For dropping a tip on the way out. Thank you very much. We'll be here all week. Tip your, try the veal. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm in Seattle, so I'm going to have to say maybe suggest the meat substitute. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian almost 5 years. I just I don't tell everybody about it. So can I be a real vegetarian?
Yeah, nice. I don't know. The wife is a vegetarian as well, and that's really cut down my meat consumption. And there's some really good vegetarian options out there, so it's good. And I feel like I'm not as tired after eating all that.
I'm always more concerned with quantity. It's like, man, just make sure my plate's full and I'm good. I like to eat. I like to eat, and that's the hard part about being a vegetarian is I end up going with a bunch of pastas and cheeses. I gotta eat, man. I can't. A salad's not food.
The good stuff. And just real quick with Baxter Surtain, I just keep marinating on this. I think he would have been best in a press heavy scheme, just because he feels most comfortable when he get his hands on a guy. So we're gonna have to see if the Broncos do change the defensive formula a little bit and play more press with him. And Fangio did that with that 2018 Bears using Prince Amukamara as a press corner to Kyle Fuller being off. But also with him, I don't really trust Surtain in a single high scheme so much where he's going to be left on an island. But if you can let him be big and long and physical and smart with 2 deep safeties behind him, so he can be a little bit more attacking downhill, not as worried about getting beat deep. Hello, here we are. So this is going to be great. And we got Tom saying, why aren't you a
the passing game is from 3 yards from the line of scrimmage and backwards.
Yep.
You treat running backs and slot receivers. I mean, you treat slot receivers and receivers as running backs these days with all the slip screens they do. Yep. That's where he really excels. You take that away from a team on one side of the field, and he pays for himself right there.
Yeah. No, 100%. And why am I not a Seahawks fan? I'm from Iowa, guys, and when you live in Iowa, you kind of have the benefit of picking your team. Mm-hmm. And did not want to be a Bears fan. Did not want to be a Vikings fan. I did like the Rams because my dad actually worked with Kurt Warner's sister, and I got to meet Kurt Warner multiple times, which talk about just a genuine great guy. And also did like the Colts because my next door neighbor married Bob Sanders. So got to meet him and Dallas Clark a few times, and that was pretty awesome also. But Broncos forever. Love them. Guys, that's going to do it for us today, though. I want to give a shout out to everybody who dropped those supers. Mike Gibbons, Marcus, or don't want to give your name away, Mr. Boggins. Also, we had another one earlier as well. Malcolm Brown. Also, thank you very much. Thank you guys so much. We had a great time today, talking a lot of stuff. We'll be back Thursday. If you guys have anything that you want us to talk about, get to us. Obviously, there's still a lot of draft stuff that we can talk about. Maybe just some teams in general. Going over here. Maybe we should talk a little Falcons too. We gotta carve out at least a little niche for the Falcons. I know it's
Broncos all right. I might end up doing on our off days. Falcons for breakfast. Something like that. That sounds a little. To me, that sounds a little mean though. Like, wait a minute, Broncos for breakfast. The alliteration there, but Falcons for breakfast sounds kind of gruesome. So and Jeremy coming in here talking about the tornadoes. I showed Nick my my window, and this is what it normally looks like. Here, let's look over here. You can see outside. That was pitch black yesterday at this time. It was. Now I'm probably way off here, so I apologize.
I thought you were at the draft. You've been using a green screen?
Pitch black yesterday. So I'm glad it hit a few miles south of me, but they've been doing a lot more damage in Alabama and stuff west of Georgia, but it did come through yesterday pretty good. So going to rain again. That's on the docket. Champions League, 3:00, knockout game. So if you're watching, if you got something to do and you just want to have something on in the background, Manchester City and PSG at 3:00 Eastern time, it will be a fun way to kill 2 hours.
Yeah. How about Falcons and flapjacks?
I make good pancakes.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe so. And I was thinking, for me, this is Broncos for brunch.
We got to get going.
Brunch at 10:00, 10 to 11.
Oh man, we are getting late. We all appreciate it. A really good convo today. Great job in the comment section as well, guys. Keeping it civil. I really do appreciate that. I know that sometimes feelings can be a little bit Falcons and Frappuccino. They're very good, Kenneth. But who are you rooting for in Champions League today, Scott, from coming in from Mitchman?
I don't know. I like to think that I would root for one team or another, and then when I start watching them, I will probably go. I want to see PSG come back, and make it interesting. I don't want Man City just to get an early goal and put it to bed. So I want to see just a good game tomorrow. There's no question who I'm rooting for. That one's off. But I got to root for it. If I'm watching a game, I got to root for a team. But I typically just root for really, really good football. And I'm going to say football since we're talking Champions League. And these are two teams that play an exciting brand with all the talent on the field. PSG and Manchester City will be a good advertisement. If you've never watched a Champions League game or an international soccer game like this, this will be a good game to watch. You can watch it for free in Spanish, and then it's always exciting. You don't have to pay for all access if it's on there. So that's a good one. Tomorrow, Real Madrid and Chelsea. Chelsea's playing a bog it down style right now, and they're not all that exciting. But when it's your team, you don't care. Just get the result. But today, the 3:00 game today will be a fun game to watch. Should be a lot of up and down, really high-skilled players. So there you go. There's my Champions League talk right now.
And I'm pulling for Man City just because a good friend of mine, talk a lot about him, one of my favorite Broncos analysts for the years, Andrew Mason, is a big Man City fan, and I'm pulling for Chelsea versus Man City just so I can pester him online.
I don't typically like Champions League. It's like when Alabama played LSU. The biggest comparisons between Champions League and American sports is college football. And when Chelsea played when Alabama plays LSU in the final, or Georgia played Alabama, it's not the same. I'm like, that's a conference championship game. That's not a national playoff game. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm rooting for good football. That's what I'll root for today.
And no injuries. Real quick, pro comp for Surtain, Talib. I think Talib was a better man corner. I think he had a little bit more twitch to him, but Surtain is, I think, even bigger and longer and also more heady. So I'm actually going to go.
I think he's stronger at the point. I think Surtain's a little more physical. Where Talib, do you go Richard Jefferson? With that type of size? I don't know. Richard Jefferson was a special cat. He battled his way out of Compton and, ended up going to, he was Stanford, wasn't he? Yeah. Or who am I thinking of? Do I have the right guy?
Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman, thank you. See, like Richard Jefferson was a basketball player, small forward. I told you, I only remember old guys now. Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman was who I meant. Thank you. But, that's not a terrible comp. Richard Sherman, like I said, he was special in a lot of different ways. So, but that's not a bad comp, as physical as he was coming out of there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with one that the Talib said Richard Sherman for him. I'm going to go with Xavier Rhodes. I think a guy who's longer. You didn't always see the jets on him, but because he was so long and intelligent, he was a really good corner for a number of years. And we saw him transition from that more press scheme to being one of the best off-coverage cornerbacks in football last season. So I like the Xavier Rhodes. I like to go with guys who are a little bit more current. I think the ceiling is maybe even a Charles Woodson, but yeah, God bless. You don't want to say that. Is he the next Champ Bailey? Not the same kind of player. I think more aptly like Woodson, probably not as good of an athlete. But
I'm loving all this soccer comments in here. So
right?
probably it's a vocal minority, but there's a lot of soccer fans in here. So I'll be happy. Nick, we might have to do one on my channel. We'll talk about some stuff on here too.
I'm gonna have to brush up
on my channel because I watch all of those. My fandom has turned to international soccer. Like football became a job, became a career.
Mm-hmm.
And the joke I use is, it's not a joke, but it's like you end up rooting more for the names on the back of the jerseys than on the front of the jerseys. Like, I don't care about the Falcons and or Broncos nearly as much as I poured my fandom into soccer. So I still want to be a fan. I still want to root. So I watch all those teams. And besides, when you got relegation and everybody's connected like that, relegation, promotion, and fighting for top four, you watch all those other teams. So I watch Leeds, I watch West Ham, I watch Spurs, I watch all those teams all the time. I'm much more of an expert there from my fandom than just about anything else. So I like to talk soccer and smoothies.
I need to get out to a Sounders game because there is a huge contingency of fans out here, and get out to a Sounders versus Timber.
And what makes it cool also is the loan policies. Let's say, okay, we got Drew Lock, but he needs another year to develop. Let's send him over to Canada to play for a year where he's not playing against us. That's cool. That's really cool. So, I've always said that the general manager aspects of international football are really, really cool. So, and Green Street Hooligans was a cool movie. Miguel Almiron from Atlanta goes to Newcastle, so I watch him all the time. So, yeah. Now that we're wrapping up here, I don't mind. We're at an hour 20. We can talk a little bit of soccer.
Just a little bit. Don't tell Chad. He's like talking soccer. What? Sorry, Chad. We're having a good time.
We're at 80 minutes. We're at 81 minutes here. We've almost got a full match under our belts.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us. I got to get flying as well. That has been Broncos for Breakfast. We appreciate everybody who swung by today, everybody who dropped a super. Y'all are the best. You can find us at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. Also follow Scott and myself at Nick Kendell MHH, and make sure you follow Scott at Scout Kennedy. And really appreciate it if you guys go to youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. I'm also going to drop his YouTube account in the chat here. If you click on that, it can take you right to it. So make sure you do that. Check it out. He's got a lot of great content on there. If you have any specific players you're interested in, like he said, he is the most active on his YouTube. He will answer your comments and questions if you comment on his YouTube pages. So make sure you check that out. Also, guys, really helpful for us if you've been joining us today. Like, subscribe, and share if you're joining us on YouTube. If you're joining us on Facebook, click those thumbs up. We appreciate everybody. Happy Tuesday. Stay safe out there. The draft is come and gone, but man, are you ready for that 2022 mock draft yet, Scott? I'm just kidding.
I'm not prepared for it. So
I'm just kidding.
I'm going to need a season. I'm going to need a season. It felt the college football season to me felt artificial a little bit this year. I had a little trouble getting into it as much. So for me, it was more watching, highlights of these guys and doing so, and see them in person at Senior Bowl and things. As far as, normally I'd usually watch 8 or 9 games from Thursday to Saturday. Mm-hmm. But it felt a little artificial to me this year, with the fans being gone. These teams are playing, these teams aren't. These players are playing, these players aren't. That my interest level was as low as it's ever been for the 2020 season. So I'm looking forward to 2021 and getting into it all the way through.
Yeah, be prepared for my love for Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame. Oh my God, I'm swooning.
He's from Marist. And what's Jeff's name here? He does Dog Nation. I was working with him for a second. He goes, watch this kid. And he was rated a 3 stars at the time. And I watched him for like 3 seconds. Jeff Sentinel. Anyway, I looked at him. I was like, That's 5. That's a 5-star guy right there. I've done this for a long time. That's a 5-star guy. And by the end of this, the cycle, he was up to 5 stars. I'm like, this kid does it all. I'm a big fan. Marist High School, and Notre Dame you should feel pretty good about the smarts there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's from 20 minutes from here. So
I think he was
those Georgia boys.
I think he was born in Greece as well. So a worldly buddy. And man, he really reminds me.
He's
Kobe.
like we're talking Kobe Bryant. We're talking Kobe Bryant of a cultured dude. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Kyle Hamilton.
It really spoiled my tape of watching JOK this past year because I was trying to watch.
Who froze, me or him?
Okay. But guys, we appreciate you. We got to get on out of here. Everyone stay safe. Thank you, everybody who joined in the comment section. And we love y'all. Hit that like button, subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you on Thursday for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Until then, have a good one. Go Broncos.
All right, y'all.